All right, click links, join channel here over at SubScribestar. So, how weirdly degenerate do you have to be to virtue signal to your puppet masters to gamble on the afterlife? That would give me pause, even if I was some, you know, blow addicted atheist Hollywood doing all the Maria Abramovic type of Satanism, basically. And that might be long odds to gamble on the afterlife, but why would you take them? And on this mortal coil, you're willing to insult, I don't know how many Christians are, a billion Christians, including possibly a few who might have a few, loose screws. So it's like they're looking for an express train to hell. It seems like a bet with no upside and all downside. So this kind of anti-Christian attack she looks insufferable, if I'm being honest here. I still haven't seen, what was that movie she's in? Not The Witcher. That was the video game movie. But it's not that the Oz movie. This kind of anti-Christian attack is interesting because it's starting to backfire on the people who are pulling the strings. Because of social media, you can start to look up at the people who are pulling the strings and going, "This is, it's just getting kind of obvious here." So apparently, this chick was in the musical based on a book that was a prequel to the Wizard of Oz, but not written by I forget the guy's name, Frank Baum or something. And apparently, the Wizard of Oz wasn't gay and black enough, so he wrote a book to fix it. I don't know if the witch was black. I think the the thing of the book was she was green, and so she had to go to school as being green, and I'm sure it was really heavy-handed, like the green is the new black or something. So then they made the movie, and obviously they used this chick in it. So it wasn't gay and black enough. So this guy wrote a book to fix it. Again, instead of creating something new, because they're parasites and they just suck the life out of everything while spreading the disease. And they, Tolkien was right. They really can't create. And as Lana said, woke is not over. It's going to be, we're in the Empire Strikes Back phase, if you want to compare it to a good movie universe, because in their mind, they took some hits from Trump, when in reality, they really haven't. They take that government has been cutting some of the waste. It's like less than 1% as a personal insult. And they go, oh, yeah, why do you even care? It's only a few $1 trillion or $1 billion. It's only like less than 1%. And then you turn around and go like, so why would you care if Musk is cutting out the like something that doesn't matter? It's like if it's any kind of waste, it's not government waste, it's taxpayer money waste. People really need to get that clear. If you have money to send to encourage butt fucking in Botswana, then it's time to cut taxes. I mean, it is time to cut taxes massively. And finally, we're hearing some people talk about the property tax thing, which seems like an unconstitutional taking. Anyway, so we're probably gonna find out that much of the USA type of money found its way to Hollywood in one way or another. They have a lot of ways of moving money around, but Hollywood doesn't seem to be not all of Hollywood is aware of the vibe shift. So they're just gonna keep virtue signaling until their industry, figuratively, burns down, and people start using AI to make their own movies, which is not that far away. Shorts are already here. They're not great, but you're talking about like 5 years. Shorts are going to be very solid, and maybe not that much longer after that. People are going to be making full length movies, and they're going to be good. Like you might use physical actors, but instead of green screens, you'll be able to use AI and CGI, and the price points will come down massively. So anyway, the thing with religion is how hard is it not to insult the various religions? Absolutely crap on the individuals, the Muslims, Jews, and Indians. That's fine, but attacking people's religions is not necessary. It just kind of feels childish and pseudo edgy because I don't mention Christians or of course European people, especially blonde haired blue eyed people, because that's the only group you can attack. Even Norm Macdonald made some comment on it when he had some kind of show where he was reviewing stand-up comedians, and one of the comedians got on there and was just doing Christian humor. I don't know if Norm came to Christianity later in life, but even outside of religion, if you look at it and you're like, yeah, it's not funny because it's the one religious group you're allowed to go after. Get on stage, do your stand up, and go and say something about Muslims or Jews. I dare you. It's like, Oh, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Well, I'm not saying then. I mean, I'm not saying do that because that would be a very short career, one way or the other. But then you can't do it on Christians because it just sounds stupid. And to the audience's credit, I will say this kind of stuff is not selling like it did. It's just stand up comedy in general is it was having a rough time because of woke. And then now there's kind of a right wing resurgence. There's a couple of political. I'm seeing clips on social media about politically incorrect comics, where they're starting off with a left wing setup, and then they followed up with a very hard right wing punchline. I can't repeat on YouTube. And that one of the girls, Leonardo Joni, is just one of them. But there's a couple other ones out there who are getting into interesting territory. And maybe social media is making a lot of this more possible in a way. But the thing is, you just can't do left-wing, anti-Trump, anti-Christian, Orange County, am I right? Those kind of jokes. It's so old. Yeah, it was old in 2016, like the Trump stuff. But the comedians and Hollywood and Saturday Night Live, which is its own story, they just had a special with who's that guy? Not the Epstein Island guy who was wearing a MAGA hat or something, and the bit was he wouldn't shake some black guy's hand or something. Just stupid. Tom Hanks. Weird pizza connections with these people. Anyway, so this book got turned into a musical, and it did well because it had some pop star in it. Ariana Grande, I think is her name. I don't know if that's her real name, but she was some fair-skinned, probably Irish girl if you look at her pictures beforehand. And she knew that if she hadn't wanted to make it in this globalist music industry, she had to change her look a little bit. So she covered herself in bronzer to look vaguely ethnic, maybe Spanish, I guess, with the name, and it seemed to have worked because she's a huge pop star. Britney Spears was a whole different world, and dare I say it, it was a better world if you were around for it. And Dweezil Zappa did some covers of her songs, and they sounded great. The 90s were a fun time. There was a lot of that kind of, because P2P was being introduced, and you could get a hold of this weird music that was being made in small clubs or studio, practice tracks, and it was all finding its way to the internet. You could hear albums before they were released, the rough cuts, and it was a lot of fun. Anyway, so the Wizard of Oz music. I mean, if you're around for that time period, you look at things now, and you look at things and you go, oh, things suck now. Yeah, they really, really do, and they're only going to get worse. So the Wizard of Oz movie was a hit, so now the usual Hollywood globalist vermin decided to bring back JC Superstar, which there was a version of King Harold's song talking about P2P. Yeah, that's where I got it, like 20 or 30 years ago, where there was a song with Meatloaf and Axl Rose from the 90s that was very good. Anyway, in case you're not aware, Jesus Christ was a figure from 2,000 years ago. Whether you're religious or not, he was a historical figure. Many different people, including the Romans, talked about him, and was obviously male, because a female leader just would not have gone over, probably at that time period. As people pointed out, his physical description wasn't remarkable. Otherwise, it would have been mentioned more in the various sources that talk about him. So it's safe to assume that he fit in with the people who were in that region at the time, and there's a lot of argument over what exactly those people look like. But it's fair to say he wasn't too tall or short. He was just a regular looking guy on the outside, at least. And there were a lot of different people in that region. So, I'm preferring to have him blonde hair and blue-eyed. And different races are going to shade him in their own image when they draw him, which is fine, because it doesn't, admittedly, it doesn't matter too much. And the differences are coming from the perspective of his followers, where the people who are making this play and the audience are not his followers. They're more like the people who are going to sell them out for the 30 pieces of silver and then are doomed to walk the earth. That's its own interesting story as well. Even if you're not religious, there's a lot of interesting things about Christianity. So like a Japanese is going to make him appear Japanese in their pictures. But these kind of Hollywood versions are not coming from Christians. The two guys who are funding it, Marone and Greenblatt, are not fans of Christ or Christianity or Christians, and probably not Catholics if you know your history, which is one of the reasons they're funding it. This is kind of part of the humiliation ritual of a conquered people to let them know that they're conquered, because this is like a challenge to rebel, and every time they don't, it's like an admission they have won. The thing is, this isn't a perfect analogy anymore because social media has really changed the game in a lot of ways, because the audience isn't captive in some coliseum where they're forced to watch this, and it's a self-selecting audience. I mean, these tickets are, probably $300 for this kind of cast. It's a self-selecting audience of just the worst of the worst, queef-huffing soy boys, cat ladies, and it's like the if you distilled New York and San Francisco, the environmentalists who they have a Prius or a Tesla so they can take pictures with it, but then they also have a Chevy Suburban to drive the kids around, or a Cadillac Escalade to go up to Tahoe from San Francisco. I mean, they have these SUVs. Like if you go out around Bay Area, if you're walking by the school or you go pick your kids up, every car is an SUV that will never see 18 miles to the gallon. And it's all women who are driving these cars and they don't know what a mile to the gallon is. It's like they don't even think about it. Anyway, so it's like they're the diversity crowd until it starts home invading their neighborhoods, and you every once in a while you hear an interview with somebody in San Francisco, and turns out like they're not so happy when their environment gets cultural enrichment. Then it's back to Law and Order. And, it's like they're insufferable because 2 years earlier, they were the ones who were holding signs and defund the police and shaking their fists in the air. It's like, oh, your car just gets broken into every 4 months. How do you enjoy paying for that glass to be replaced? It's like $700 every time they replace that panel. And they're drilling holes in your garage to do home invasions. Are you liking that, Mr. Dentist in the San Francisco hills with your $2 million, two bedroom house? Like, it's not looking so cool, is it? Anyway, so they're finally starting to be poisoned from the fruit of their own tree, because they're sterilizing their kids now, which is, I don't know, one of the darkest periods in history. I mean, speaking of biblical, isn't that like Sodom and Gomorrah? And obviously, it's not safe to go after Jews or Muslims, so they do this kind of thing, and they think they're edgy, but it's just so. It wasn't edgy 10 years ago. It wasn't edgy 20 years ago. It hasn't been edgy for like decades and decades, but you see the same old, and it's not laughter, it's clapter, it's clapping, it's a conscious signal. Where they're putting their hands together to virtue signal, but it's not funny. It's just like Sarah Silverman, Chelsea Handler type of humor. But the thing is, finally, some people are starting to awaken to this situation. Social media is allowing us to shine a light on these cockroaches, which is nice because maybe one day, that light will get organized. If you remember your physics. Anyway, so a bald-headed, nose-ringed black chick who played a witch is going to be the Golem in this movie, which is a weird way of saying you enjoy being a puppet for a paycheck. And I'm curious to see how the audience reacts to this movie, or this play, because it's going to be only for a woke audience. I suspect the emphasis is going to be on people taking photographs like outside the theater to post on Instagram more than actually enjoying the play. And it will do well because plays are left-wing soy coded. There's not a whole lot of right-wing plays as much. It's made for the cuck crowd. They love a play where nobody in it is Christian. Like nobody associated, like you're not going to be in the play if you're a Christian, obviously. Not the director, the producers, the people who are financing it. These are all, dare I say, Antichrist followers. Hopefully there's some absurd French humor. I'll leave that there. But if anyone gets that reference, don't say anything in the comments. So anyway, good luck with this. Don't say anything about karma. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.